Hey, I'm Sam with Busy Dad Gaming. I help busy dads find the best games to play on Xbox and PC so they can relax and go back to their families recharged. Now, to really showcase just how good Halo Infinite is looking during this multiplayer technical preview, I captured all of this footage on a Series X at 4K 60. Halo is one of the games this holiday that I am the most excited about. But not only will you get the campaign with Game Pass, you'll also get the multiplayer for free. And you won't need Xbox Live or Xbox Gold to play, at least not as of this recording. So free-to-play games on the Xbox platform do not need Xbox Gold. So this really opens up who can play Halo this holiday. Now, this past weekend, another technical preview took place that expanded the player pools and introduced even more stuff to play within the sandbox. Next weekend is going to get into big team battle, if I could speak properly, that'd be fantastical, and is being opened up to anyone who is an Xbox Insider, so make sure to go ahead and sign up for that so you can actually get into the technical preview next weekend. But now let's go ahead and take a look at the bad, the controversies, and the good, starting with the bad. Now, bad is totally subjective in this case, but there weren't many controller options, at least on the Series X. Now, you got 5 preset options, and if none of those worked, then it was time to start manually mapping buttons. And technically, it's not really a deal breaker, but I would love to see more options here. It had the exact same problem with the PC version as well. You could go ahead and map the buttons, but it was the same presets. Now, another thing I would chalk up into the bad column is that most people were not using mics in the technical preview. Now, I didn't play with a group of friends. I just ended up playing solo the entire time just due to schedules. So I wanted to see what it would actually be like when you just had spare moments. So very few people on these pickup games actually had mics, let alone as an entire team. This is common sense. It's not necessarily common practice, and the teams do play better when they talk and when you coordinate and you start calling things out. But when you have a bunch of people on a team that are just running around with their heads cut off and zero communication, yeah, you tend to get curb stomped. Now, my biggest complaint out of the technical preview actually came because of the chat settings, or better yet, the lack of chat settings. So when you're in game and you actually have people talking, you cannot mute individual players. It's an all or nothing. I had a match where a teammate was blasting his damn TV speakers and his mic was picking up all of it. The two of us with mics could barely talk or call out because of this, and so it was super irritating of having to hear that person's gameplay feedback through the mic. Now, that may or may not be an issue come launch, but as far as the technical preview was concerned, chat settings were sorely lacking. I would love to see those improved. And the next one isn't necessarily bad, but it is something that could be frustrating if you're getting in on the big team battle next weekend, is that in this tech preview, you're getting a lot of people that really enjoy Halo and either already know how to play it, are potentially good, or they're already in that insider track. And so I would consider myself a pretty average player. I'm usually in that, 1 KD range, but man, when you get saddled with some of these pickup games and nobody's communicating and everybody's running around with their damn head cut off, man, get ready to be curb stomped, because it can potentially not be a ton of fun when you're just getting stomped into the dust. But let's be honest, this could also just be a get good moment, so let's be fair. And that brings me to the controversies. Now, the first one is aim assist and being either overpowered or underpowered depending on your point of view. Now, I actually don't mind aim assist. I didn't have a problem with it personally. I'd much rather have Halo aim assist than what we had in Cold War with their aim resist at some points. I don't know if that was just me or not, but the aim assist within Halo was actually pretty good for me. I did see some tweets where you had somebody that went AFK and it was still capturing people within the aim assist. I don't know. I didn't do too much digging on how that really was done, but that was definitely something that popped up, which also came to no red reticle when moving over an enemy. Now, I heard this the most on PC. I didn't really notice, honestly, but with the character outlines, I'm not overly worried about my reticle being red or not. So I can see how it could be frustrating, especially for people that have really relied on that red reticle over time. But when you're looking at the overall outline for a player being in whatever color you chose, I don't know if that's really as big of an impact, but I can definitely see it being irritating for some. The next controversy, and some of these are coming from Twitter, some from Reddit, some from YouTube, so take it all with a gigantic grain of salt. But the next was that the sniper wasn't as accurate as it should have been. Now, I have no idea if this was a thing or just a troll, but I didn't have any issues with the sniper, but I also suck with it. So any kill I got was with the sniper, I was just basically thanking the Halo gods at that point. So some people were doing some testing and shooting the sniper rifle at headshots and then just outside of the hitbox, and it was still hitting people. So again, I don't know if that is something that will be readily apparent in the next technical preview or even the release build, but stuff like that I definitely expect to be cleaned up by release. Now, the next controversy that I saw was regarding the radar, and the community has been requesting the old Halo radar to come back. Now, in the previous tech preview, you would show up on the radar whenever you were sprinting, firing, things of that nature. Otherwise, you wouldn't show up. And the old school radar was essentially you were showing up unless you were crouch walking around the map. So from what I've heard, 343 did adjust the radar to enable it to show like the old games, but it doesn't have as big of a radius as it used to. So I honestly didn't really pay too much attention to it, but this was something that a lot of people were hoping that it would be extended like another 20 meters or something like that. Again, we'll have to see how that pans out, but the radar was something that people were complaining about. Another controversy that I saw come up was whether or not Halo Infinite will die without a battle royale. Yes, this was actually said. I'm sure you can find it quite easily on the interwebs, but everyone does have their own opinion, but ultimately time will tell. I personally don't feel Halo really needs a battle royale, but if they did put a really cool spin on it or added their own Halo flavor to one, then I could potentially see it being of benefit. But at this point, I don't really see it being a benefit. So, time will tell on that one. And last but not least was regarding the Battle Pass only using Challenge XP to level up. Now, I was also in this camp because I really didn't like it in the first technical preview. The overall progression was relatively slow as a result. So they did add more challenges during this technical preview that really helped increase the rate at which you were actually progressing through the pass. So it kind of alleviated, my reservations around it because it didn't take as long to level up. Now, this could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what the challenges ended up being. So some of them were like super simple of like play a match or get 5 kills with an assault rifle or, things of that nature. They weren't overly difficult. So I'm curious to see what kind of challenges actually happen at launch and whether or not this concern is founded or not. So those were the controversies that I ended up coming across through those. Each one has, things that could be for or against. A lot of them are already being addressed by 343, so it's pretty awesome there. So let's go ahead and dive into the things that I thought were good. Now, in terms of the overall good, a lot of them carry over from the technical preview previously. So just if you haven't watched that yet, go ahead and check that out. But in this one, there was a lot of good because the multiplayer was better than some full releases, and this game is still a few months out from release. So if you go back and watch my impressions on the Vanguard beta, I wasn't overly happy with what I played. And with the Halo technical preview being, still a few months out, this game has so much polish on it, it's insane. And when you look at the new map that was released here on the technical preview this past weekend, which also included vehicles, which was amazing. I absolutely loved the new map Behemoth. The vehicles were fun. Driving the Warthog felt awesome. And sometimes the Warthog would hit, like bumps and things like that and would go flying through the air. So sometimes it was kind of difficult to control, or maybe I just suck. It could go either way on that one. But I'm still guessing there's some fine tuning that needs to be done on the vehicles. But you had the Ghost and you had the Warthog in there. It was actually pretty fun. The Warthog, you had I don't know what it's actually called, but you essentially had the chain gun on the back, which never actually overheated, which you could just, lay fire, but it didn't do as much damage as potentially in Halo's past. So that was pretty cool. You also had, there were new guns, grenade types, power-ups, and overall they just fit within the sandbox. So like you had new guns that were not plasma, they were like kind of like Forerunner type stuff. I'd have to go back and look up exactly what they were. You had new grenade types, so one would actually like drain your shields, for example. You also had some new power-ups like the repulsor, which would just launch whatever across, wherever at that point. So you had a lot of people, if you look at some of the videos, they were using the repulsor to push them, aiming at the ground, firing it off, which would then launch them into the ground and then grapple. And then it was crazy some of the stuff people were doing. It was pretty awesome though. Another thing that isn't necessarily gameplay related, but that 343 is very against toxic behavior, and they're trying to crush it right out of the gate. Most people within the beta, or in the technical preview I should say, whether they are aware of it or not, are rocking open mics. Now in Call of Duty, this type of thinking is already, you would end up getting people that would just start yelling obscenities, racial slurs, other demeaning verbiage, and this is horrific in Call of Duty. If you've ever played it, you know what I'm talking about. Now with 343, they're monitoring all of that, whether you like it or not. And so if you do it enough times, and, obviously I'm assuming that there's some kind of progression level where, you do it, they warn you, you keep doing it, then, eventually you'll just get the ban hammer. And I absolutely love this. Now, when was the last time you were in a Call of Duty lobby and instead of people saying, GG or, great job, that was a great shot, or, just being more uplifting, they were trash talking and just going to town. And it was just ended up everybody just turning into a yelling match. Me personally, I can't stand it. And it's actually one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of Call of Duty at this point, but I'm really glad 343 is taking some measures against this kind of toxic behavior, and hopefully it kind of weeds it out and you have an overall uplifting community. Because especially when you go to Twitter, for example, especially with Halo Infinite, there's a lot of positivity in the community right now, and it's amazing to see. So the game overall feels great. I'm really excited to get my hands on Big Team Battle next weekend. This technical preview was awesome. Like I said, this game already looks like it could have been released. There's a ton of polish. I'm sure a lot of it is just coming down to load testing, balance testing, and then just balancing the overall sandbox at this point. Definitely make sure to check out my previous impressions of the original technical preview. Make sure to stay tuned for the technical preview next weekend, where we're going to be looking at Big Team Battle. So that's going to be awesome. And then make sure to stay tuned for this weekend, where I'm going to go over some of the games that are coming out for Xbox and PC here in October. So definitely don't want to miss out on that. And with that, I'll see you out there.